The second demo use case we're going to show is the simplicity of integrating SD-WAN or a cloud edge connection point, a router, into the cloud security framework. So you see highlighted here, we're talking about the cloud edge space, specifically the router, and this leg here, the security leg that ties us into the cloud security. How do we get this integration done? That's what we're going to be showing a use case to it, and the simplicity, sort of a better together story of Cisco. Before we go into that, I have a topology picture to show here, and I just bring it up very quickly to highlight what we're going to be touching as part of this demo, what you'll be showcasing. So this is a graphic of the entire SASE v2 lab, and what I want to focus on is these top left corners here. There's a branch 1 highlighted here, as well as a branch 2 highlighted here. So these branches, this connection, the umbrella here, how we're connecting that into the rest of the umbrella cloud security, that's the focal point of this particular use case. Just note, nomenclature-wise, for branch 1, it is going to be listed as site 300 under vManage, and branch 2 is going to be listed as site 500 under vManage. And so those are the two sites that you'll be doing configurations for as part of showing this particular use case. All right, so let's move on to building the connections. All right, but before we build those connections, I'm going to show one other setup element that has to become done in order to make this this use case work. It was shown earlier or on the setup guide, but in case you missed it, here's what we do. So I'm going over to the dcloud page, and at the dcloud page, we're going to launch the connection from the jumper station here. So let me click on that. I expand it, and you get the option to open it via the remote desktop link right here. So in the connection, in the jumper connection, what we do have to do is, in order to get our SD-WAN environment to work correctly, we have to make one modification to the settings for the system IP. And that's because this is a shared environment, multiple pods using the same thing as setup. We have to uniquely identify which pod we're working with here as part of this complete setup. So obviously this is something you need to get done prior to showing these demos to customers, or these use cases. So in the jumper workstation, what we're looking for is this demo ready page here. We want to make sure that that we see that is there. And if we open that up, what we get is some information we need, which are these system IPs. So as I mentioned before, branch 1 is that site 300. So we have a system IP for that. And then branch 2, which includes 2 routers, are these 2 routers for site 500. You see those system IPs. So we'll need that information. So let's put this to the side. And once this is over to the side, we're going to open up a browser. Open up Chrome here. And under Chrome, what we want to do is we want to look for the SD-WAN folder and the POC tool. In here, this is where we will change the system IPs for the branch routers to reflect this particular pod's environment to make everything work. All right. And the login here for the WAN test drive here is dcloud@cisco.com, and the password, like everything else you see on that page, is that capital C1SCO12345. So we'll put that in and log in. And once we are on, this is the POC tool to basically set up elements of the environment. We want to go on the left pane here and navigate towards first site 300. See that here? If I click on that, I bring up the graphics for that, and I'm looking for this router here, the CE1. You can see it by the shield icon in the teal box or teal circle. This is a router. So if I right click there, I can edit that, and the item I want to edit is that system IP. So let me quickly head back over to that page we loaded earlier. There is a copy item right here, so I'm going to copy the system IP right here for site 300. I'm going to go back, and I am going to go right click and paste this in. So you see we have our new system IP. I'll say OK on that. And once that's in place, I want to go to the top right here and click deploy. And so that'll take a few minutes to actually complete. And I'm going to let that go forward. And that completes what we need to do to get set up for branch 300 or site 300, branch 1. I'm going to do the similar thing over here for site 500. So let me click on site 500 here. And once I get to site 500, we will modify the two for the two routers here. Now you'll only have to do this if you're going to, of course, demonstrate anything from branch 2. If all you're going to show is a branch 1, then obviously you don't need to bother with this. But let me go ahead and edit the first router here, CE1. I'm going back to this page here. I'm going to grab that first system IP, and we'll modify that value here. Okay, we'll say OK on that. And let me get that second router. All right, back over. Let's go ahead and copy that value for that system IP for that second router. And we'll say OK on that. And once those have both been modified, we can deploy that one as well. All right, so we see the up here, Site 300 still working. There's a little asterisk after the 300 showing that it's still working to be deployed. As I said, it takes a few minutes. I will go ahead and accelerate this recording so that we can see it being actually deployed completely. Okay, back to normal speed here. We see that Site 300, the topology was deployed successfully. Same thing we'll look at for Site 500. So when Site 500 gets deployed successfully, we will be done, and then we can move on with building our connections that I mentioned before. All right, so heading to Site 500 here, we see that it is finished deployment. The asterisk has gone. We see that home icon, so we know we've completed here. So let's go ahead and close out the console here. We don't need to be in this particular page. Shrink that back down. And just so let me close out Jumper altogether, because in case you did that setup earlier, right, this is what you'll be looking at when you bring customers to the demonstration. All right, so back at the D Cloud, remember, we're going to be starting here, and we're going to be going up and opening up the Jumper remote desktop. Ideally, you start at a point here where you've got basically a blank screen on the remote, of a remote desktop on the Jumper workstation. And from here, we can start our work on building out those tunnels. Okay, so now that our back-end systems are all connected, we're going to go and start configuring the tunnels. Now, before we do that, just to confirm we know where we're starting, I'm going to bring up the demo ready page here, and this is something you could do just to show if you're showing the ease of connectivity with the customers. Bring up Umbrella, right? We go to that demo ready, we go to Umbrella and View, which will log us in. And what we're going to show here is just to prove that those tunnels, those SIG tunnels, Secure Internet Gateway tunnels, are not already connected from the SD-WAN routers. Remember that site, branch 1 and branch 2, the Site 300, Site 500. So when I go look at Umbrella, where you find the connections from the SD-WAN routers to Umbrella is we look at the deployments section. Deployments are basically where sources are coming in that we can build policies against. So under here, there's a core identity section, and they're called network tunnels. These are the ones that will get established as SD-WAN routers connect. Lab environment, we got a lot of inactive ones. You see that here, but what's really critical to show here is we have 0 active tunnels right now. So nothing is currently connected to Umbrella from SD-WAN and actively going. All right, so let me open up another tab. And in this new tab, we're going to go over to the SD-WAN. So bookmarked SD-WAN to vManage. And in vManage, we'll go ahead and log in. Admin is our username. The standard capital C1SCO12345 will be our password to log in. Again, all this information is given at that page where you pull up all the core identity information for the lab. That page where you found the source IPs, the system IPs for our routers, all in there. All right, so here we are in vManage. We're going to leverage templates to connect the SD-WAN environment to the SIG, to the Umbrella SIG. So let's go and take a look at configuration and templates. And we want to specifically look at the one for the entire device that's been set for, remember, Site 300. So remember, Site 300 is branch 1. Site 500 is branch 2. So I've got one template that's been deployed. You can even hover over the device or click on the device to see what device it's been configured for. You see that Site 300 CE1. All right, so we're confirming that's where we're going. and I'm going to edit this template. So click on the little ellipsis, the 3 dots, and then click on Edit. And under here, what we're going to look for is we're going to look for connection from the Transport Management VPN, VPN 0, that connects up to SIG. So we can easily navigate to that by clicking over here, Transport and Management. And then what I want to show here is that in here, do we have a connection to SIG? So we're looking at the VPNs here. We have several VPNs, but we have one category over here for Secure Internet Gateway. So I'm going to add Secure Internet Gateway by clicking on that template. What it does is bring up the new category here. Now, if this weren't already pre-populated, we go ahead and configure. But if I open this up, you can see we've got several templates already available for us. You see there's a demo SIG for different things we're doing, active, standby. We're going to go ahead and do active standby, which is the AS template. So I'm going to configure that one for what we're deploying here. So active standby. But what I want to do is I want to show what that template looks like. So let me go ahead and, since I've selected it, I'm going to view the template. I just want to show the simplicity of what we're doing with our connections. So if you note down here, I've got a template that has a source, a tracker IP, but the key thing in here is the configuration itself. We're connecting to 2 IPsec tunnels that head in. I've given a few parameters in here, things like a TCP maximum segment size or the MTU. But note what's really interesting here is that I've identified IPsec 1 and 2, but I haven't given any parameters for things like tell me what the FQDN or the IP or what region I want to go to. What's nice about our environment here is all we're going to do is tell it we want 2 tunnels, in this case active standby, and we want SD-WAN vManage. You figure out what are the best tunnels to connect to. And all I've done is given it 2 tunnels. And so it talks to Umbrella, and through mechanisms of checking for best return path, quickest return, we're going to automatically establish tunnels to the right Umbrella SIG based on the location of the particular SD-WAN router that's being configured. So as long as we're setting it up, we say active backup, you see them here, and we say auto right in here, it'll automatically do that for us. So that's a really nice feature of establishing those tunnels, is you don't have to put a lot of information in. You just have to tell it how many you want to build and whether you want them active or active standby, and it'll automatically go out and figure the best ones to connect to. All right, so that's it set in for VPN 0. When we do that, we also, under additional templates, have to go down and take a quick look to understand that there is a section now been added called the SIG credentials. Now, this is done through Umbrella APIs. Those have already been configured in here. You can see the SASE demo SIG credentials. I will just select that one. And so with those 2 elements in place, that's all we have to do to start establishing connectivity from this particular router to SIG. So let's go ahead and update that. And we are going to configure it for that particular, again, site 300, branch 1 router, and click on configure device. Now it'll take a few seconds for this particular template to get deployed. So we can see on here it's already configured and attached to the device. So we have finished for site 300. Now that's pushed the template. It will take a little bit of time for those to actually connect up to Umbrella. It can take somewhere between 5 to 10 minutes actually to get the full connections up to Umbrella, so just be aware of that. I'm going to quickly go through though and configure site 500. I just want to show one thing on the site 500 configuration. So if I go back to configuration templates, and in this case search for site 500, note there are 2 routers. Remember we saw that earlier. Branch 2, which is site 500, is 2 routers. So I have to go through and do it twice, but I'm using the exact same templates, but I'll use those same templates for site 500. So let me go ahead and do that. Okay, so both templates for the two different routers have been sent to configure the connect to the tunnels. Now, the other thing we have to do within vManage to make this all work is we do have to establish or tell vManage what traffic we actually want to send to the tunnels. All we've done so far is establish a connection to the tunnels. So we're going to look at that, and I'm just going to point out, going back to configuration and templates, the simplest way to do this, and that's what's been done here in dcloud, already pre-configured for you, is we select a specific VPN, service-side VPN, and tell it to send basically default everything that's not in the routing table to SIG. And you'll see that's what we've done here. So if I go and look at a feature template this time, because what I want to do is connect, I want to change the configuration of VPN 10. Again, I'll look for Site 300. And in Site 300's templates, let me go and open that up, and we're going to scroll down. We're going to look for VPN 10. And so we see here VPN 10. All right, so I'm going to go and edit this one just so you see what's going on. And I'm going to go down and look at something called a service route. So down here you see I can quickly navigate to that. And under service route, you see what's been done as a default route pointing to SIG has been already put in place. It's been done for VPN 10 on both Site 300 and Site 500. So this basically says anything that's not within the routing table, internal routing table, you're going to send that off to SIG. Now, of course, we could have created a data policy or app routing policy that says I want to only send certain applications to SIG or certain applications not to SIG, right? That all can be configured with more details. A little beyond the scope of what we're showing in this particular demo environment, but that is certainly something that's an option for customers if they don't want to just send everything that's not within, the inside part of the network over to SIG. But I just wanted to point that out. So we'll cancel out of here. All right, so at this point, tunnels are coming up, and then we've also, we know that once that happens, we're going to be sending all the traffic that's not part of the internal routing table to SIG for basically web type connections. Cloud connections. Let me pop back over to Umbrella. All right, and right now I'm going to reload this page. We're going to see if we have any active tunnels that have come up yet. So let's take a reload. And what we see is we have 2 active tunnels that have come up so far. I'm going to go ahead and filter, by the way, to make visibility a little easier. I'm just going to look down here in my filter. I want to just look at the tunnels that are active because those are the ones of interest to me right now. All right, so we can see that under the active, we know we have 2. Here we can see them coming up. And you can actually read the name in here. You note that it says Site 300 System IP 1.1.110.4. Remember we changed that System IP earlier for Site 300? So that's the System IP. And you can see if I hover over, it also says Tunnel 1, Quad 01. So this is the first tunnel connecting to from Site 300 up to SIG. And you can see that it's actually going to the New York data center. The second one is a Site 500 tunnel, so one of the 2 routers from Site 500. You can look at the system IP to determine which router it is. In this case, it's 1.1.112.4. And again, the first tunnel, Tunnel 1 Quad 01. And again, that one's going to, just like the previous Site 300, it's going to New York. So these will come up. What we'll see at the end is we will have a total of 6 active tunnels come up. I believe that is correct. So let's go ahead and let this guy keep building out, and I will keep refreshing the page, but I'll probably time-lapse this or speed it up so we're not sitting here watching. All right, and here we are now with the 6 active tunnels we were hoping for. Let me go ahead and filter out again, and let's just look at the active tunnels. And if we take a look at those, again, as we saw before, we had the Site 1, Tunnel 1, so you can see it comes from Site 300, which was that Branch 1 router. Tunnel 1, we now see also Site 300, we see Tunnel 1 Quad 02, so the second tunnel, which in this case goes to Ashburn, Virginia, is now up. We had, I think we had this Site 500 tunnel up before, but now we see the 2 tunnels for the 1.1.111.4 router, which I think is CE1. And then both tunnels for that, and then both tunnels for the second router. And so we can take a look at that. Just clicking on the name, we get a little more information about what this particular tunnel is, which is really just telling us things like the tunnel name, which you can rename if you want to make it more legible. But that is, and then the information about it. And then down here again, we saw New York, we see the IP, we see it's active and when it was last kind of seen. So there's some information that can be shown for the tunnels, but now we have those tunnels up. We have the default route traffic flowing to it, and so now from our branch users' locations, when they send a connection, when they send traffic, they will go through these tunnels. And just for final confirmation, let's pop back over to the D cloud, because what I want to do is I want to bring up, remember, branch 1 is site 300. So let's go ahead and take a quick look. Close that. Take a quick look at that workstation. We'll remote desktop into that workstation. We see it up here that we're in branch 1 workstation. And once we get into this particular router, I'm just going to open up a web browser page just to demonstrate and confirm that we do have a connection to Umbrella from this particular workstation, again going through the router. So let's open up a browser. We'll open up Chrome, and then once we're here, we have bookmarked a page under the Umbrella tab that does an Umbrella test. So we'll hit that, and of course what we expect to see, we do see, which is the green screen saying yes, you're connected to Umbrella. All right, so now we have the branches connecting to the tunnel from the router. All right, and so with that, we've concluded what we want to show for this particular use case.